Welcome to Autism and Adulthood, the podcast that explores what happens after the school bus stops coming because the journey doesn't end at graduation. I'm your host, Sharon Williams. Today is a very special episode because we're launching our new Voices Across America series. This series will feature parents, caregivers, self-advocates, and professionals from across the country, sharing their unique experiences while reminding us that although services may vary from state to state, our hopes, challenges, and determination are often the same. I'm honored to welcome our very first Voices Across America guest, Samia Reed from Texas. Samia is the mother of an adult son with autism, and today she'll share her family's journey through the transition to adulthood, the transportation challenges many families face, the resources that have helped, and the hope she's found along the way. Whether you're listening from Texas, Georgia, or anywhere else in the country, I believe you'll find encouragement in Samia's story. Let's jump into our conversation. Okay, Samia, tell us a little about yourself and your son.
I'm a mother of three and a special education teacher. My son is Hamza. He's 25 and he has autism. He enjoys movies, video games, and listening to music.
Awesome. Awesome. And how old is your son?
He's 25.
He's 25, same age as my son. So
Right.
can you share your family's autism journey and what life looks like today?
Sure. So my son, he lost all language overnight when he was 3. We woke up one morning and he had lost all language.
Wow.
And the experts told me that he would never talk again. I was called a bad mom for not teaching him sign language. The school system 22 years ago, they didn't know what to do with him. And I remember saying to a colleague, I'm teaching everyone else's kids, and who's teaching mine? And that's when I knew what I had to do. I quit my job as a teacher and I started homeschooling my kids. And I homeschooled them for 8 years. At the time, my son was very low functioning, nonverbal, and he was a runner. I invested, I invested every moment of every day teaching him, and that was the hardest job I ever did. Today, what does it look like? Hamza can talk now. He started talking when he was 9.
Awesome. That's great.
Thank you. Lots of prayers, lots of hard work. He did go back to public school when he was in 8th grade. He graduated from high school in the year of COVID in 2020, and he
Wow.
participated in the 18 plus program. Today he
That's
can do some things himself and he needs
mhm.
help or supervision with many things, but he's now considered a level 2, so he's really grown quite a bit.
That's really awesome and a blessing that he, progressed over the years. That's really awesome because a lot of times stories I hear didn't quite um, come out like that. So that is
Right.
really a blessing. That's awesome.
Right, right.
Can
Thank you. I know because like as a special education teacher now, I was a gen ed teacher and then I became a special education teacher because of the inspiration from my own children. I don't know if you know, they're all 3 on the spectrum, but we're going to talk about the youngest today, Hamza. Um, but when I work with the students today, I come home and I thank my husband. I said, "Thank you for letting me stay home and homeschool my kids because he would not be talking today, I'm sure of it, if he had not had that one-on-one intensive, work with him."
Yeah, that is awesome. And it was a blessing that you were able to do that.
Right.
Oftentimes I find families that that's not an option. So that is such a blessing as well.
Right.
Um, I have another question for you. What has the transition from school services to adulthood been like for your family?
Well, it was like waking up one morning and losing all support and friends. Um, for days, Hamza would get ready for school. He'd put on his backpack and he'd go stand at the window in our living room, and he would be waiting for the yellow bus. And he would ask me with tears in his eyes, he'd say, why'd I get kicked out? And it didn't matter how many times I explained to him, he just didn't understand. He kept saying, but my friends are there.
Mm-hmm.
I asked his teacher if she could share like an email or something, so we could maybe reach out to some of the friends that he'd made. And, because of confidentiality and stuff, they weren't allowed to do that. So there was no way of getting in touch with him, but the realization that all of the progress and the structures and the schedules, everything that we worked so hard, it felt like it just came crumpling down. It was-
Oh, boy, I bet that was tough.
Yeah.
Um, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced as your son became an adult?
Biggest challenge has been figuring out now what? What's next? Like, is he going to volunteer? Is he going to,
Mm-hmm.
where is that going to be? How is he going to get there? And I think most importantly, what will happen to him after my husband and I are no longer alive? Like, who's going to care for him? Where will we
Yeah,
live? Who
that's
will
a
be
big
his
one.
guardian?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of families go through that. I've gone through that thought process myself. It's huge and it's you know, we have that issue, and I'm saying we with families with a special needs individual that other people don't have to think about that. But I've thought about it so many times. So I totally understand that thought process. It's a big it's a big deal. And then you got who can I leave them with if something does happen to me and my spouse that I can trust, that understands my son. It's just a lot that goes into that people don't understand, that don't have to deal with that type of
Right,
issue.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And for most families with neurotypical children, you're so excited that they've graduated and you're done with being, the parent that has to take care of the kid. Now they're going to be independent, they're going to be on their own. And I don't know, I didn't quite get that that wasn't the case for me.
right.
It
Yeah,
didn't, like, I guess I knew somewhere in the back of my head, but it didn't really hit me till it hit me.
yeah, yep,
And for us, it was like a death sentence almost. Not that, okay, maybe that's a little extreme, but it was really an eye awakening.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah, because and a lot of people don't understand, and that's what this entire podcast is about. After they become adults, then what? You know what I mean? Like
mhm, mhm.
that's a whole new level of issues that honestly that I didn't even think about until Kyle became an adult. And I'm
Right,
like, okay, it's just one of those things that you don't even sometimes think about it until it's there. And then it's just a whole new level of issues, or level of thoughts, level of concerns. You know what I mean? So I totally
right, right,
understand that.
exactly. And I was in the school system. So, I was a special education teacher. I was even a vocational teacher one year. I was the teacher next door when he was in the vocational program. We were in Seattle.
Hmm.
And I tell you, it still hit me, even though, I was watching the kids graduate. I just thought, okay, well, my son's going to graduate from this and he's going to have a job. Like,
Yeah,
he'll have
right.
a job coach and he'll be
Yeah.
fine. You know what I mean? And I never even once thought about back then, like, what will happen if I die? Like, you don't think about, I didn't think about that kind of stuff back then. You know,
For
we
sure,
don't.
you don't, and you really don't. And when they're growing up and little kids, I often say you have so much support until they become adults. And I do think even people that don't deal with individuals with disabilities, they're thinking too that everything's okay now, not
Right,
realizing no, it's not. It's more a whole nother set of issues that are to me more serious than when they were little kids, because the support system for me anyway was a lot larger. And then you had the school system, you know what I mean, and things like that. But once they become adults, it's like, everybody's gone on with their lives and figuring, okay, they're out of high school, that their life is great too. When it's so many, like your day programs, and what do you do? Which leads me to my next question. You shared with me that transportation has been a major issue in your area. Can you explain what families in your community experience?
yes, absolutely. So we live in an ETJ area, which stands for extraterritorial jurisdiction. And basically, that means we're not in the city limits. And so when we moved to the city, to Austin, we wanted to get a house where we knew transportation was a thing, right? So we said, okay, we're going to live in, am I allowed to say the name of the city?
That's up to you. That's fine.
Okay. So we said we're going to move to Georgetown because they have an extremely, like, they have a really great transportation system. They take care of their people with special needs. So we're like, yes. When I talked to the community, they said, you want to move to Georgetown. So we did. We made sure there were other houses that we liked just as much, and we chose Georgetown just for that. What my realtor didn't know and what I didn't know is that there are little pockets of land that are within the city limit, and there's these little pockets that are not part of the city limit. So
Wow.
my house happens to be one of those in the transit, they call it transit desert.
Mm,
Because all around us, it's the city limit, and then you got these little areas here and there that are like little bubbles, as you know, or something that are not covered by any of the services. So my son, he qualifies for, and he's been approved for transportation services, but they won't come to our house because we are not in the city limits. So that's the regular paratransit bus, but that's okay. There's the country bus, right? Well, I've spent so many hours and so many days and weeks on emails and phones trying to figure this transportation thing out. The country bus is supposed to go out to the rural areas, but that's not the case for us because to ride on the country bus, the closest that they come to our house is my son would have to walk over a mile and cross 4 lanes of traffic in
wow.
order to meet the person who's going to give you a ride. But paratransit is supposed to be door-to-door transportation. But the closest we can get to a door-to-door transportation is for him to walk. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, that's dangerous. And,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
to hear him say that, it makes my heart happy that he understands that because
Absolutely. Hmm.
when he was, probably around 6 years old, I once found him jumping up and down with joy, and he was flapping his arms, and he was laughing as he was watching this episode of Blue's Clues. And then all of a sudden I was shocked because all around his bare feet was broken glass. He had accidentally knocked off a glass from the table, and there was shards of glass, and he was jumping all around that glass, his foot being, we were lucky it didn't, I got him before he got hurt, but he had no idea of danger. And
Right.
now this kid 20 years later is like, Mom, I'm not crossing that street. And I was like, yes, that you understand, but I'm sad that you don't have the transportation.
Yeah, that is really that's tough to hear, but it opened up a whole nother conversation sometimes of what individuals like yourself go through in other states. Didn't even had not even heard of the transportation or the area that you said was it you said it was called ET the
ETJ. Hmm.
ETJ. Had never even really heard of that until I met you. And that's just huge because a lot of families work, and it also could teach your son a little independence if he was able to get on the bus and go on to his program or work or wherever, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
How has the lack of reliable transportation affected your son's independence and your family's daily life? Has it affected it at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. He's definitely regressed. I try to help the people on the other line understand this as I talk to so many different agencies. He previously has had a job. The last job, he's had about 3 jobs. The last job that he had, he kept for a year, and I think he would have stayed working for Tom Thumb if we hadn't moved from Dallas. Now he stays home all day. He just entertains himself, basically. I'm blessed and fortunate that even though, back then when he was young, I wouldn't have been able to leave him at home. But today, with all the support that he's learned how to take care of himself and stuff, I can
Mm-hmm.
leave him home when I go to work and my husband has to go to work. Um, I've looked into day programs, but without transportation, there's really no way to get there.
Oh, wow.
And besides that, most day programs cost around $1,000 a month, which
Mm-hmm.
he can't afford.
Right.
And he doesn't qualify for the day program waiver. Like we talked to Medicaid, and they said in order for him to qualify, he has to have very high needs. Um,
But he does. I mean,
well, their qualifications are things like, you know, I have to change him, like he can't go use the bathroom by himself, or um, he can't, there, I don't want to get into the level three
right, right,
support
right.
needs, but it's
Yeah.
like,
The criteria is
very
a lot, yeah, more
right,
severe
right,
for a severe
right,
individual.
right. And
Wow.
yes,
That's a
so.
lot to deal with. What resources or programs have any been helpful to you and your family at all since you've been there?
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I feel like the whole community of people out there with special needs, the parents, the families, people that know other people, it's an amazing community. So that I think is the first thing I want to say is thank you to all those people out there that have been in my life and have like given me the encouragement and the support and sometimes just a smile or a kind word, right? As
Right.
far as other programs in San Antonio, there's a program called Kinetic Kids, and we
Mm-hmm.
absolutely loved it. They're recreational activities like dance and gymnastics, which of course you have to live in San Antonio
Mm-hmm.
because it was the parents of a person with special needs that started this, and I
That's
love that
awesome.
they are doing
Mm-hmm.
it. Special Olympics has been great. He's in it now.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Workforce Commission is helpful if, when to get a job and get a job coach, but they won't help you unless you have reliable transportation. So right now they don't even they pretty much told me just last month, we can't help you if you don't have transportation. So go get the transportation, then call us back and we'll help you get a job. I'm like, okay.
Gotcha.
Um,
Wow. What do you wish you
let's
had known before your son entered adulthood? Is there something you wish you had known as a parent before your son became an adult?
Yes, but I'm going to go back to that last question. One more thing that I just discovered that this
Sure.
might be helpful to lots of people.
Sure.
It's called the HIP program, HIPP.
Uh-huh.
And actually, a mom of a person with, a friend with autism told me this. So thank you to this lady.
Wow.
Um, it stands for Health Insurance Premium Payment Program. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're like me and has really high premiums that you have to pay, like with my job to have a family insurance for just me, my husband, and my son, it costs me over $1,000 a month out of my paycheck. And it's really hard. So if you sign up with this program and you qualify, they will either pay for, or in my case, help me pay for a part of my insurance premium so that he can still stay on my insurance. And then the Medicaid is still there as a secondary. It it really opens up some doors because there are so many things that are not covered by Medicaid. There are so many doctors that don't take Medicaid, but this way he can have the best of both worlds and I can still afford it. But I just found this program very, very recently and have applied to it. So thank you to my friend.
Yeah. Thank you definitely for your friend. And thank you for mentioning that. That's what I would like to see happen. And I'd like for my guests to, if they know any resources or information, that is great. So, to all the listeners in your area, check out whether they have the HIP program, HIPP, correct?
Right, right.
And see, because that is very helpful. So,
Yeah,
thank you, Samia, for mentioning that.
you're welcome.
Um, what do you wish you had known before your son entered adulthood?
Well, I wish I knew about the ETJ areas,
For
even though
sure.
my realtor didn't know either.
Yeah.
And because without transportation, the door to so much just closes.
Hmm.
And there's so much information out there, but it's not all in one place. I wish that it was easier for parents to access information. Like, when you're in school, everything is kind of together. You have a case manager and they help you with, all the things that you need. You don't have lots of places and lots of people to call or have to deal with. But then when you get into the adult services, everything is everywhere. And I spent years, like, of course, he graduated at 22, and now 3 years later, I'm still finding out things, right? I wish everything would have been just in one place and ready for me, like a handbook or something that
Right.
could have,
Yeah.
uh,
Totally
you know
understand.
what I mean?
Yes, for sure.
I
A
know this
handbook would
summer,
have been really nice.
right? And I mean, I'm sure there are books out there and handbooks and stuff. I just haven't found them there. So,
I'm totally right there with you on that. What advice, Samia, would you give to parents who are just beginning to think about adulthood for their child?
take it one day at a time. It's not a marathon, it's a race. And be connected with other parents, like especially those that
Yes,
have gone through a similar journey. They are so
absolutely.
supportive, so knowledgeable. Listen to the podcast, listen to Sharon. I so appreciate people like you, Sharon, who are putting it out there for people to know what to do and what to expect. I wish I had have had these things, back when my kid was little. And then for the child, I say see the potential, like believe in your child. They're gonna surprise
Mhm.
you because I know, like with my kid, like first of all, I didn't think anything was like I there were he didn't start talking till he was 9, so I
Right.
started doubting myself and thinking, oh, maybe I am a bad mom. Like the experts told me,
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody told me he's not gonna talk. Why am I doing this to him? Like I almost gave up, on myself and on my child. And then their little voice in my head didn't let me, thankfully. But you think that when you're going through it and your kid is little and you've gotten that diagnosis, or even when they're, in middle or high school, you think, oh, I thought, if I could just get to adulthood, I'm going to be free. If I can
Yes.
just get
Yep.
it.
Absolutely. That was me. That was me. So I totally get it, which is why I started this podcast because I'm like, it has to be other families or caregivers or, people that feel like me, like thought that, we've conquered everything. They're an adult. And then you're surprised with so many other issues that you just didn't even think about and challenges that you end up having to deal with, which in some cases, as we spoke about early on, could be far worse. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking about, like you stated earlier, um, what happens to them if something happens to me or my
Right,
husband.
right,
Um, you know, yes, for example, for me, my son had grandparents. His grandfather has passed away, but my mother's still living, but she's up in age. She can't, there's no way she would be able to deal with a 25-year-old special needs individual. So that's not even an option. And I don't know, only God knows, but I don't know if she'll be here anyway. If something happened to me or my husband or something. But it's just that even that extended family that I had, I just really don't, it's something to think about. You don't have that a lot of times because as we get older, your family's getting older, your friends are getting older, you know what I
right,
mean? So
right, right.
and they have to be able to deal with those challenges. And I just feel like a lot of times with special needs individuals, as the mom, we know the fathers, we know exactly how to what they can eat, what they can deal with, what triggers them, sensory wise or anything like that. Most people don't know that, wouldn't know that except for the family, the parents that they grew up with. So
Right.
it's a big challenge. My next question, Samia, is despite the challenges, what has brought you the most joy and hope on this journey?
I would say the most joy has come from my son. Like he has the biggest heart. He's the most kind, loving individual I know. Um, and other parents on the similar journeys, they've given me the most hope for sure.
Oh,
I
awesome.
I see my friends and their neurotypical kids, and they're like, oh, he doesn't even want to talk to me. He doesn't hug. Why does your son hugs you? And I'm like, yes, my son and I, we have a bond.
That's
I
awesome.
love that. I don't have with him, I don't have to worry about drugs or you know,
Yeah.
getting into trouble or all the
Yeah.
dating stuff. No, he hugs me every day. He will stand up for me. If my husband raises his voice just a little bit,
Yeah. So
he
there
will
are
be
positives.
there.
And you're right. There are certain things that we, as parents of special needs individuals, there are things that we don't necessarily have to worry about. Some of us, depending on their special need, there are things that we just don't have to worry about. And just to piggyback off of the hugs, when my son comes in the door, Kyle, he always give me a kiss on the cheek. And I know
Oh,
he's 25 now, but he never fails. He's going to find me and give me a kiss on the cheek. And that's special. So I understand totally where you're coming
yes.
from.
I mean, I do get looks. Like sometimes we'll be standing in line. We were standing at the
And
post
people
office
looking.
together. Exactly. He just put his arm around me, just gave me out of the blue. He just wanted to hug me, and I hug him back. And people are looking at us like, "What's happening
Well,
here?" It's not the
exactly.
norm, but I
That
love that it's my norm.
exactly. Um, I ask every guest this. If you could leave one message of hope for a parent facing an uncertain future with their child, what would you want them to know?
It's a hard question. Okay. I'm gonna tell you my story about that. When my kids were little, we were at martial arts. My husband and I, we were doing martial arts, and my older two kids did it. And my youngest, Hamza, would just run around in circles. And I remember one day I said, "Why me?" And Sabanim Williams, who was the instructor and the owner of this place, he said, God only gives you what you can handle. And so instead of asking why me, why don't you ask why not me? And that phrase right there has been with me for 20 years. I don't know where this teacher is anymore, but what he said to me every time that I felt like I couldn't anymore, it was just too much. Am I gonna make it through this? I remembered his words of why not me? He, in other words, God only gives you this kind of child if he knows that you can handle it, because the truth is not everyone can handle a child with special needs. And if
Mm.
you are chosen for this, then you must be in the high ranks of God's book, of his. He
Yeah,
thinks
that's the
highly
way.
of you. He knows you can do it. And that's why you were given this gift of this child that is full of, you know, joy and a blessing to me. So why
Yeah,
not me?
and I really appreciate your your answer, and that is a very positive way to look at it. So thank you for your answer. And
Thank
Samia,
you.
thank you so much for sharing your family story with us today. Your honesty and willingness to talk about both the challenges and the victories will encourage families not only in Texas, but all across the country. And thank you for being a part of Voices Across America series. I want to thank all of my listeners for joining us today for Autism and Adulthood. I would love for you to subscribe and share this with any family that you feel like needs to hear it. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward one step at a time. Thank you.